Let's talk about the Wagner chief
Today,
again.
that Wagner leader Yevgeny Prigozhin had some big plans, even bigger plans, before calling off his brief revolt. Western officials telling the Wall Street Journal that the Wagner leader planned to capture two of Putin's top-ranking military leaders, the defense minister and the chief of Russia's general staff. Officials also say that Prigozhin sped up his plans after the Kremlin was tipped off. We have CNN's Nick Robertson with us now on this story. A fascinating development here. What can you tell us, Nick?
Yeah, Sergei Shoigu, the defense minister, Valery Gerasimov, the army chief of staff, these were the two men who Prigozhin had been ranting against publicly for months in advance of this situation. So there's context and history to the allegation or the supposition of the intelligence services that he was going to try to capture them. When Prigozhin went to Rostov-on-Don, that big Russian military headquarters with all his troops, he said that that evening, at 9 p.m. that evening, Sergei Shoigu, the defense minister, had fled Rostov-on-Don. We're learning other details from other Russian security chiefs. The Zolotov, the head of the National Guard, said that they had got wind of Shoigu's, of Prigozhin's plans to challenge the authority, challenge the state. They got wind of those plans that they were supposed to happen on the 22nd to the 25th of June, and they had this from leaks. Now, Western intelligence say that they had picked up that Prigozhin was about to do something by an increase of level of communications internally in Russia's state security services. So this picture that's being painted, that Prigozhin was not just going to try to challenge the authority, he was actually going to capture and kidnap, it appears, we don't know to do what with the defense minister and the army chief of staff. It's quite a staggeringly brazen plot, but apparently people in his camp leaked to the Russian government what was happening.
How is the Russian military situation destabilized at this point, with this New York Times reporting that Sergei Surovikin had advance knowledge of last weekend's mutiny, assuming that is true?
What is your take on the Roseanne Barr Holocaust joke thing? Is that, from what I understand, she was being sarcastic, is what people are saying. I haven't seen it, but I mean, Jewish people making Holocaust jokes is a timely tradition. So if that was the case, then as much as I want to say that she's fucking insane and out of her mind, it might be a clip chimp. No, dude, it's a big leap. Yeah. Anyway. No, absolutely fuck her. She said we need a Holocaust too. Gone on Crowder regarding it. She's definitely insane and out of her mind regardless of anything she's done recently. Yeah, I mean, like, even if she was being serious, I still don't give a shit. It's fucking Roseanne Barr. Like, oh, wow, I can't believe she said a Holocaust joke. What? That's crazy. Shit. Like, even if she literally wasn't joking, even if she seriously was like, oh, the Holocaust didn't happen, but I hope it did. If she said that, okay? Like, very seriously, if she said that, okay. So, what hasn't she said?
It's hard to know and whether or not it's true, because, of course, this is a time when Western intelligence agencies would love to put seeds of doubt in the minds of the Russian government, and particularly in the minds of in President Putin's mind right now. Sergei Surovikin knew Prigozhin. They'd worked together in Syria, both Prigozhin for his mercenary group, Surovikin as a general. Surovikin last year had been put in charge of the Russian forces in Ukraine, and it actually stood up to President Putin. It's understood that he was the one that said, you have to pull out of the Kherson region. And Prigozhin liked Surovikin. He said he was the only Russian general worth a star. Now, it's not clear if that not clear if that was a mutual situation that Surovikin actually liked Prigozhin, but there's perhaps evidence that at least Prigozhin thought perhaps he could trust Surovikin. We really don't know, but it appears when you sort of analyze what happened on the ground, whether or not he'd put some faith in Surovikin or other generals, his ability to move into Rostov-on-Don, take control of the military headquarters, his ability to move troops further north, raises that very pertinent question: how many other military generals had wind of this, were actually on Prigozhin's side? But in the case of Surovikin, he very quickly, when this began to unfold, came out in a video telling Prigozhin to back down. And it was noticeable that he actually had a Kalashnikov on his lap when he made that statement, which is sort of bizarre in itself.
Yeah, really, really interesting. A sort of Game of Thrones playing out as we see there in the Russian military. Nick, thank you for the report. Boris?
Let's expand the conversation now with retired Lieutenant General Mark Hertling. He's a former commanding general for the U.S. Army Europe and the 7th Army. General, great to share an afternoon with you. Thanks for being with us. First, on President Biden describing Vladimir Putin as being weakened by this attempted coup, what is the biggest threat right now
Ozempic Mike Pence
to his grip on power in Russia?
You know, there's a lot, Boris. I'll just use Nick's words. It best describes it: bizarre. You know, the last couple of years I was in the service in Europe, there were daily intelligence reports coming across about Russia, and it was always speculation, leaning toward confirmation bias, internal military rumors about what was going on in the Russian military from different channels, Kremlin power plays. And you mix that all with the deception operations, the so-called Maskirovka that the Russians do all the time, would always be confusing. But that is now on steroids because of the actions over the past weekend. You have the personalities of Shoigu, Putin, Prigozhin, Surovikin, as Nick just mentioned, Gerasimov, the chief of the equivalent of the chairman of the Joint Staff. You also have another guy that hasn't been mentioned all that much, a guy named Zolotov, who's the Russian National Guard commander, who's a Kremlin insider, all throwing out these rumors of how bad things are. But I got to tell you, Boris, this is more of an understanding that Russian military and their government is a proverbial nesting doll of dysfunction. But it is gone on steroids right now in terms of all the craziness that's happening. And
I think one of the funniest parts about this is that, yeah, it's like a weird situation to occur, but it's also one of the oldest things that has happened throughout history time and time again. Your mercenaries getting upset at you is literally like, history has that not happened? If anything, that's kind of the whole reason why people are like, there was a point in time when people were just like, maybe we shouldn't do this fucking private military contractor shit. You know? Like, that was the entire point of why mercenaries get a bad rap in general. Because throughout history, they have always turned on the people that hired them. Yeah, when you're losing the battle and start talking about honor and loyalty to the bloody end, and you get that mercenary stare. Yeah, this one is Mark Zuckerberg. We started using lead again, and it's been a slow downfall since then. Why did Prigozhin not go full throttle, to be honest? He had to know that a coup isn't something you go halfway right, unless you're Wang Gaida, I guess. I mean, he probably wants to survive. I think he wants two things, right? He wants to maintain control over the Wagner group. He wants the Wagner operations to resume in Africa and not in like some fucking dead-end battle, dying in a ditch. Like, I assume he'd probably want, much cushier security operations where he's like extracting gold from African nations in exchange for security, rather than like dying in some fucking gray ass village to like Russian artillery fire and not even fucking Ukrainian fire. You know what I mean? So that's probably one reason. And then the other is like, he just also doesn't want to die. And if he was like doing a full-blown coup against Putin, he definitely would die, right? So I think it's just like he couldn't get his issues across. I think he couldn't get his issues across to the MOD or Vladimir Putin, so he just fucking chose to go balls to the wall a little bit. I don't even know how he's still alive. Like, I don't get it. Lukashenko brokered the deal. I mean, how much fucking power does Lukashenko have, though? Lukashenko stitching Putin up like a kipper today. Here he explains how he's supposed to talk to Putin from killing Prigozhin. I said to Putin, yes, we could take him out. It wouldn't be a problem. If it doesn't work the first time, then the second. I told him, don't do this. Like, I just don't. Lukashenko's friends with both of them. It doesn't matter. He was friends with Putin too. But how much fucking power does Lukashenko have? You know what I mean? I thought Lukashenko was Putin's fucking lapdog, not the other way around. I love Chapo's take that Luka is the only leader who seems to run things well. He did squash a rebellion in his country, so he is fucking 1-0. He's up. Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko says he's banning inflation. From October 6th, all prices increases are forbidden. Forbidden. Wait, this is from last year. And also, everybody's joking about this, but it's like kind of brilliant. I'm just saying, like, how about we do that? Yeah, guess what? If Brandon did that, he would win every state. All I'm saying. Price controls work. Our price increases were mostly from corporate greed. We are dumb fucks. Yeah. Getting mad at this fucking brilliant man for his brilliant economic policy and banning inflation is stupid. Also, he's very hot, but that's besides the point. All right, let's move back to the Wagner situation.
And yes, Putin is weakened by all that. You can tell by the effects he's had over the last couple of days and what he's been doing to try and thwart the rumors that are swirling around his government and his military.
Yeah, that kind of speculation rampant, the sort of Kremlinology of who's doing what. There's always intrigue around Putin and his generals. But on that note, you mentioned the confusion. How does that play out on the battlefield in Ukraine?
Well, there's already reports now coming from inside of Russia, and these are rumors, again, they've not been verified, but Surovikin has been put in jail. So if the commander on the front is now in jail, may not be true, then that would cause more dysfunction because that boils down to the troop level, what's going on in the foxhole. And what we're seeing too, combined with the potential for Ukraine's forces generating increasing momentum over the last several weeks and admitting they haven't even started the major counteroffensive yet. They're still conducting shaping operations. That would probably give the Russian soldiers on the front line a little bit more pause and cause an even decreased morale on the front. Russian morale has not been very good since the beginning 16 months ago of this operation. this invasion. So it can only get worse. It can't get better.
We have looked into, or we are, I should say, looking into reports of the arrests that you mentioned. CNN is working to confirm them. So obviously we will bring that news as it comes out. But should we anticipate a purge by Putin of some of his top officials, especially if he considers them threats?
That could be a course of action, Boris, but truthfully, I think there's a problem with that because Russia is currently in a defensive state. They have their defensive operations ongoing against an increase, like I said, an increasing Ukrainian momentum on the front. So now is not the time you want to purge. You want to do a purge during peacetime when you can quickly replace commanders in the field. Now, we may see more replacements of Russian generals, Russian colonels on the front. But truthfully, Boris, we've been seeing that since the beginning. The number of replacements due to ineffectiveness, inefficiencies, and death and casualties on the front line of senior leaders has just been remarkable in this campaign. A lot has occurred on the Russian side. We may see a purge. I wouldn't bet on that, but you could certainly see a lot of high-ranking officials replaced. I'm watching very closely Gerasimov and Shoigu and what happens to them. Everyone seems to be focused on Prigozhin. What I'd like to see is what's happening inside of the Kremlin, and that could also affect this guy Zolotov, the National Guard commander, because he is the true Kremlin insider. He's a general that's been inside the Kremlin, much like a lot of our military are inside.
Putin increases poll numbers is such a silly take because, like, what fucking poll numbers are increasing in that situation? It doesn't increase poll numbers in that situation. Like, he just looks weak. He looks so fucking weak. And guys like Putin are entirely reliant on their strongman. The confidence that his voters have in him, the confidence that his supporters have in him are that's entirely developed around how strong he is, how big of a strong man he is. Please stop. This is treason. Shut your corrupt bureaucratic mouth. We will have soon a new president. Stand down, boy. Yes, of course, sir. Glory to the Republic of Belarus. Yeah. We will soon have a new president. Name is Lukashenko. Lukashenko fed Steven Seagal a carrot. He's incredibly powerful.
It's very good for health.
I mean, we watch this. We watch this on stream. Like, this is a goated moment for both of our faves.
Не позволяет их сделать. Но мы попробовали. You got a big one. Nice. Готов.
It's ready.
Готов.
I love the ending because, like, look at the way he holds it. He's like, yeah, that's a big one. Where mama at? I've been growing watermelons for 25 years. This is a big one. Fucking awesome. God, it's so cool.
The Pentagon for a very long time doesn't have the field savvy, but he's very close to Putin.
Yeah.
For more than 2 days.
Anheuser-Busch CEO talked about the Bud Light boycotts, but apparently avoided all of it. His company's response and comeback
decades,
strategy.
Bud Light was America's top-selling beer.